Welcome back. As promised, it's story time. I love stories as a teaching and communication tool because stories are so powerful. Sure, they're entertaining, but more importantly, stories can teach. They can inspire you, and they can remind you of something important that maybe you've forgotten. An important part of most stories is the hero. A lot of time, our heroes are people we look to and see a little bit of ourselves in them. We see the problems and obstacles they face, or how they grow and develop over time, and it gives us a framework for handling our own issues and our own personal development. Heroes are also people we look up to. Many times, people emulate their heroes, hoping to become just like them. I know this group, many of you, are somebody else's hero. You're a role model. You set the tone for somebody else. Somebody else out there wants to grow up to be just like you. Most heroes share a few things in common. They're self-sacrificing. They're noble. They have strong character. They are usually determined or persistent. A lot of times they're powerful, wise, or highly skilled in some way. Some movies or stories start out with the hero just being an average person, and then they become a hero along the way. They start out basic, mundane, ordinary, and then they transform before our eyes. They become heroic. They achieve great things. In modern terms, we call this the origin story. Today, I'm going to tell you another origin story. This is the original origin story about the original superhero. That hero is Hercules. This is a story that teaches. It's been told ever since the ancient Spartans and Greeks used it to inform and instruct their young recruits. It's thousands of years old. This story lays the fundamental groundwork for how to become a hero and how to live a life of purpose. Sadly, this is an idea that's been lost to many people in our modern society. I don't think it'll take you very long to see why the story is so relevant to you as law enforcement officers and why I chose to tell you this story at the beginning of a training on resiliency. You probably all heard about Hercules and seen at least one movie or cartoon featuring him. Usually that stuff is about the legend that he became. Before Hercules was a legend, he was just a young guy. He was out on an adventure. Like many young people, he was seeing the world and figuring out who he was and what he wanted to do in life. One day, while he was out walking the Greek countryside, he came upon a crossroads. The path split into two. He had to make a choice about which way he wanted to go. One path was bright, sunny, and well paved. It looked like there were a lot of people on it, and it looked really well traveled. It looked safe and pleasant. The other path was very different. It was dark. It was overgrown and rocky. It looked dangerous. While he was considering his two options, two beautiful goddesses appeared before him. Each one stood beside a path and urged him to come down their road. Kakia stood next to the bright, easy path. She was sexy, tempting, and seductive. She said, "Walk this road, and you will have a life of ease. You will have comfort. You will have wealth and every pleasure imaginable." Hercules, it's easy to walk this road, and you can have everything you desire right here. Now, for those of you who aren't up on your ancient Greek, the word kakia roughly translates to the word vice. We'll talk more about that later, but let me keep on going with the story. Next to the dark and scary road stood the goddess Arete. She said to him, "The path I offer is steep and challenging. It demands sacrifice, and you'll have to work hard to keep going. It's dangerous and uncomfortable. There are no guarantees. But if you stay on it to the end, you will come to a place where you are transformed. Your life will be transformed. You will live a life full of purpose and meaning. You will be transformed. You will become a hero, the person you always wanted to be." Time for another translation. The word arete translates to the word virtue. All the ancient soldiers and Spartans who would have heard this story, They would have taken this information for granted because it was part of their culture. They knew the word virtue stood for the 4 cardinal virtues, which are the playbook for a good life. The 4 cardinal virtues are wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline. We'll talk more about that later on too, but I'm just going to keep going with the story. Hercules scratched his head and he weighed his options. He was deciding which way he wanted to take. Then he did what most people don't do. He chose Arete's hard road. Hercules spent years traveling the hard road. Every day was a struggle. He had to fight bandits. Monsters would pop up unexpectedly, and he would have to slay them. The terrain was tough, and he had to physically move many obstacles or use its ingenuity to find ways around them. He had to climb high mountains and climb steep hills. He also encountered a lot of people along the way, people who needed his help. He protected villagers from dangerous beasts. He put out fires. He rushed into action when there was a catastrophe. For years, this was his life, and it was a lot of hard work. One day, Hercules started to get fed up with this hard life on this hard road. Arete had promised him if he stayed on the path, he would reach this magical place where he was transformed into the hero that he always wanted to be. But it had been years of struggle, and he still hadn't found this magical temple or magic place where he was supposed to get transformed. He got frustrated. He shook his fist at the sky and he yelled, "Arete, why did you lie to me?" That's when Arete suddenly appeared before him. At this point, Hercules is frustrated and pissed off. When he sees Arete, he hits her with his question right away. "Arete, when am I going to get there?" Arete looked at him. She smiled and laughed, and she began to speak, and Hercules listened. She said, "Hercules, you couldn't always see me, but I've watched you all along the way. Since you started down this hard road, you've had to use your muscles to fight a lot of enemies and move all those obstructions in the roadway. With the constant use of your muscles, they've grown pretty large. You've become stronger. I watched as you climbed mountains and up those steep hills many times. Your endurance has improved with all that effort. I've seen you go into battle countless times. First, you were timid. You were a little bit scared. But now, you wade into combat with confidence. I've seen you encounter and solve many problems along the way. At first, your problem-solving skills were weak, and you were easily discouraged and confused. But now, you've become relentless, and you're an expert problem solver. Nobody can stop you. I've seen you help people on the path. Each time you helped someone, you became more giving, more kind, and more selfless. Hercules, don't you see? You misunderstood me when I explained the rewards for taking this hard road. The hard road does not lead you to a magical place where you suddenly get transformed. The hard road is the thing that transforms you all along the way." That's when Hercules finally understood. He had already become a hero, and he had the problems, obstacles, hardships, and trials to thank for every bit of his progress. He saw that if he had taken Kakia's easy, trouble-free road, he would have never had the opportunity to push himself and grow. He smiled as the realization sunk in. He finally understood. Only the hard road is capable of creating heroes, and that if he had taken the easy road, he would have never realized his full potential. And that's the story of Hercules. He went on to do great things. At this point, you're probably seeing why this story is relevant and important to you as a law enforcement officer. The story of the hero's journey in the hard road, it is your story. Once upon a time, you were a young person trying to figure out your place in the world. You decided, instead of taking an easier path, you wanted to live a life of purpose. You wanted to serve others. You had something to offer this world, and you decided to take that path knowing that it would be hard and challenging. You're already on the hard path. You're already on the hero's journey. Many of you have already become heroes and don't even realize it most of the time. It's hard to realize and appreciate that when you're facing so many issues and challenges like we are in law enforcement today. A lot of us get to be just like Hercules. We get frustrated. We get overwhelmed and burn out. We want to sit on the side of the road and shake our fist at the sky and say, why is it like this? Why is it so hard? The answer is simple. It may not be the answer we want. It may not be the answer we want to hear. But it's a fact of life. The hero's journey is the hard road. It is supposed to be this way. You cannot have a life of purpose and meaning. You cannot matter on the easy road. Only the hard road does that. It's a hard truth. I didn't invent any of this stuff. Obviously, I didn't design how life works. Neither did you. If we had put it all together, we'd probably made it a lot easier. But that's not the reality we're living in. The truth is, as people who chose the hard road, we are going to constantly face challenges and obstacles. We're going to have to do battle, both with the outside world and with ourselves. In a nutshell, what Stoic philosophy is the guidebook for the people who choose that harder road, for the people who want to live with meaning and purpose. A lot of the concepts and ideas focus on relatively simple things that we need to understand about life on the hard road. Why you would want to choose the life on the hard road. What to do when you encounter an enemy, an obstacle, a problem, or the elements are against you on the hard road. How and why you should stay on this hard road, and tools and tactics for doing just that. What to tell ourselves when we get frustrated and start shaking our fist at the sky and get mad. Finally, it teaches us to appreciate what this road is turning us into, to recognize that we're living a heroic life and give ourselves a little bit of credit for that and be grateful for the things in our lives because of their transformative qualities. Because the hard road doesn't do things to you. The hard road does things for you. How to look at things in that light so that your life is a positive experience. If you can wrap your mind around that and appreciate all the good in it, then you can be happy on the hard road. In the next module, we're going to talk about this guidebook, what Stoic philosophy is. It's not going to be a long lesson. I'm going to keep it pretty short. I'm going to give you the basics just so you understand a little more about it and essentially make you a little more knowledgeable about philosophy in general. I'm looking forward to it, and I will see you heroes in the next module.